When it comes to gaming, there are two ways publishers and developers can handle modding. On one hand, they can not only officially sanction it and release modding tools, but they can even go the full 9 yards and release the game's code as free and open source software, such as what ID Software has done for many of their older games, including Doom 3, Quake, and Quake 3. And then on the other hand, you have games released with closed licenses that not only restrict your right to modify your copy of the video game, but also forbid reverse engineering it. And even more restrictive are games released on closed consoles that are pretty much black boxes. With PC games, many developers usually turn a blind eye to these kind of mods, even though they violate the license agreement. However, consoles are a different story. You're not supposed to remove the warranty seal, and you're definitely not supposed to defeat the security of a console. Now, the big three console makers have all reacted negatively to modders, and they're more worried about a 13-year-old playing a pirated copy of the new Call of Duty or hosting 10th lobbies than they are about extending the games consumers already own, and they can get away with this too. After all, they control the market, and most of the time, attempts at making open consoles end up failing hard. More people remember the PSP, a console that was locked down but ended up becoming a hacker's toy, than the competing GP2X handheld that fell into obscurity and was a niche product from the get-go, only being sold at online retailers such as PlayAsia instead of your local Best Buy or Walmart. The same goes with the Ouya, which was bought by the Razer and is now a dead product, despite being heavily hyped when it was on Kickstarter and being the David against Goliath. However, Nintendo has a reputation of going against their own fans, and this is only intensified in the last few years. While Nintendo usually goes after the usual targets, which are ROM sites and flashcard sellers, Nintendo's newest target happens to be modders and fan game creators who make games based off their intellectual property. They've hit their own fan sites before for posting information before the game's out, they've gone after YouTube channels for merely uploading gameplay footage of their games, and now yet again they're going after their own fans. Now, Nintendo isn't the only one going after their own fans. Activision has taken down various Call of Duty servers in the past while restricting modders in newer PC titles, while Take-Two has tried to force Grand Theft Auto modders to quit using private investigators and by banning their accounts, locking them out of their own legally purchased games with the power of DRM. However, Nintendo has been stuck in a unique situation. You see, Super Smash Bros. Brawl happened to be a Wii game that had an exploit in it and allowed unsigned code and homebrew to be run on the console. Not long after, mods were created for this game. One in particular, Project M, gained such popularity that it was gaining more popularity than Brawl did at tournaments. Now, for a while it was popular and it seemed like Nintendo was going to turn a blind eye to this mod, similar to what Nintendo currently does with the Pokemon ROM hacking community, and then it all went downhill when Nintendo was preparing to release Smash 4 for the 3DS and Wii U. Suddenly, this new popular mod was disappearing at tournaments, either due to legal pressure or hidden deals. Apex dropped Project M right when Nintendo was sponsoring the tournament. From what I was able to scrounge around on various Smash communities, Nintendo is also pretty much pressuring streamers to also drop the game, preferring to push people towards the newest game. Discussion of this mod was censored on communities run by Nintendo as well, such as Miiverse. At this point, the writing was on the wall and Project M was becoming irrelevant. Not due to decisions made by the development team, of course, but due to the fact that they were creating a mod for a video game made by a company that treats modders and their own fans like Nvidia treats Linux GPU driver authors. Nintendo was pretty much trying to push them away, even without going to them directly though. At the same time, it wasn't over just yet. It was still in development and they were still producing the mod, and 3 days to the announcement there had been a bug report which had a response. The other day, however, Project M's website was gone, replaced by a goodbye letter. All the downloads and similar files were nowhere to be found, and everything was gone, with mirrors for the files popping up on other websites similar to what happened with TrueCrypt when that shut down. Now, while the developers have been vague about what happened, and while nothing much was posted about what happened to the developers of this game, a major clue on what possibly happened was in the letter, and that was the who to contact email. It wasn't one of the developers, but it was actually a lawyer who deals with video game property. Now, normally you wouldn't just delete everything and post a link to a lawyer unless something else happened, like a lawsuit or cease and desist order. After all, Nintendo and their related companies are well known for litigation, and recently they went after a fan for even hosting a Pokemon themed party. Now, while there has been little information given by the developers, including denials that it was legal pressure, it's not a bad guess to say that the legal team was close to getting them, judging from similar incidents and Nintendo's history with takedowns. The very same lawyer mentioned in the letter also said on Twitter that despite the fact that they hadn't been threatened with legal action, they had wanted it to stay that way. So in other words, most likely Nintendo was pretty much trying to stop the development without going straight to them by cutting off their fuel supply, which was the community. They were going after streamers playing the game, after big tournaments, and after their community. Now, of course, that's assuming there wasn't any backroom legal action or threat that we aren't being told about, as they are refusing to say more on the matter. No matter what the real issue is at this moment, though, something is definitely up. Now that I've mentioned the unclear situation, however, let's take a step backwards and look at the bigger picture. Considering how Nintendo has been pushing Project M out, along with similar things happening with other game developers such as Rockstar and Activision, it's clear. Video games these days are pretty much disposable. The new game comes out and you're expected to buy it. If you don't buy it, however, and try to mod a game to extend its lifespan, well, now you'll get pushed out, either through bullying or legal teams. It doesn't matter how it happens either. Despite pushes by game journalists and some preservationists to label games as art, AAA developers treat games more like disposable pens. It has a lifespan that it makes money, and when it's done, it gets thrown out to either die or sell for $10 on a digital store. Either the games will be left abandoned with zero patches, such as what happened with older Call of Duty installments where they never patched bugs and glitches in them, and exploits even, or they'll in some cases be pulled from sale, making it so you'll have to find a used copy of the game. And well, constantly shutting down mods not only decreases the lifespan of a game, but it also sends a message to any potential modders. Make mods for this game, and you'll end up like these guys did. Just take a look at what happened to modding communities for games that either pushed out modders or that made modding hard. Either they'll retreat to older installments, or they'll completely abandon the series, just moving to another game that either encourages modding, has a development team or publisher that turns a blind eye to modding, which is pretty risky, or they'll go the full 9 yards and download whatever popular indie engine there is this week if they plan on making a total conversion and just make their own indie game. And while some people online are saying that they want to bring back Project M from where it left off, who's saying that Nintendo won't send legal people after them too? I mean, look at Activision continuing to go after people making Call of Duty private servers, because that's what happens to every Call of Duty private server host. They get shut down. All in all, it's clear that Nintendo, along with some other AAA companies, continue to misunderstand their own fans, and this is made worse by the fact that they view games disposable, especially as newer installments happen to be letdowns, keeping gamers on older installments in series. This is also made worse by Nintendo's special and unique fanbase that believes Nintendo can do no wrong and happily buys their games up each and every installment. And in fact, there are actually Nintendo fans out there damage controlling Project M and what happened to it. I mean, I've actually seen it on message boards and websites such as Reddit. I've seen people go on and make fun of people for saying that they're going to boycott games because Nintendo is shutting down their own fans. And right now, game developers need a wake-up call, and it'll come to them eventually at this rate the more they do at burning their own fanbase. Oh, and before you say that modding is bad on consoles, it's not like officially sanctioned modding on consoles is impossible either. Unreal Tournament 3 for the PlayStation 3 is one game that allows mods on console, as you could use the modding tools on a PC to produce your own mods for the PlayStation 3 versions of the game. Fallout 4 is also going to get mod support later on down the line on consoles, which is also a good thing for gamers, because after all, it shows that Bethesda is one of the companies that does still care about modders, even if they were trying to do crap like the paid mod system. But either way, considering how developers treat modders, are mods even needed anymore? I mean, you not only have some free-to-use or cheap engines out there, such as the CryEngine, Unreal Engine, and Unity, but there are even some free and open-source engines, such as the ID Tech Engine family. You might as well make an indie game and be free of a lot of restrictions you'd be bound to if you were making a mod for another game, and especially if the game developer hates modders. Since game developers are clearly anti-gamer at this point, and many of them are like Nintendo, it seems like a better solution in the long run, at least for total conversions or games influenced by others. That way, you can make your own game without being afraid the developers of the game you're modding are going to yell shut it down the second they see it becoming popular. And look at the whole Project M saga. It's going down in flames right now, in drama and stuff. Do you really want your mod to end up the same way, especially if you make mods for a game where the developer not only doesn't care about modders, but tries to actively push them out? That's all that needs to be said, because it kind of pisses me off that it's ending this way when it comes to modding. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.